Hello everyone. I know it's been a while since my last video, a bit longer than I wanted it to be, and a bit longer than I intended for it to be. For context, this video was supposed to go up today, Tuesday of March 7th, but I am in actuality only recording it today, and hopefully I'll have it uploaded by Thursday. We'll just have to see. But I had some unexpected issues come up that stopped me from doing the things I wanted to do Monday, so that was fun. But you're not here to worry about that. You're here to listen to my review of RWBY's Volume 9, Episodes 2 and 3. As I'm sure you noticed from the title, this is actually going to be a combined review of both volumes. The reason for that being, I'm already behind schedule as it is, and if I keep trying to do them one at a time, it's just going to get worse, especially since I'm not going to be at home for about a week because I'll be house sitting for my stepfather while he's out of town, so won't have access to my recording equipment. Hooray. But, as I'm sure you can tell, this video is going to be unscripted, if that wasn't painfully obvious already. So I'm just going to go in and give my general thoughts about both episodes 2 and 3. I will do my best to kind of do a scene-by-scene thing like I normally want to do with these reviews, but I won't be nearly as descriptive or as particular, I guess, as I normally am. So it's going to be a bit of a different style this time, but maybe this is a good chance to experiment and try something new. Maybe you guys will actually prefer this more loosey-goosey style of a review. Regardless, either way, let's go ahead and get into it. Actually, one thing before we get into it. For some reason, I couldn't grab screenshots of episode 3 while I was going back and rewatching it for this. I don't know why. Something to do with, Crunchyroll. I'll try to get some before I actually start editing the video together and everything. Hopefully I'll be able to. If not, I'll just have screenshots from episodes 1 and 2, or screenshots from the trailers, the intros, just kind of randomly on screen so that at least there's something to look at, rather than just a blank screen or a single screenshot. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get into my review of episode 2. First and foremost, my general, rating of the episode. I really liked it. It was a good episode. It really kind of got into the story of Volume 9, whereas Episode 1 was mainly set up. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. And just a little spoiler alert, but I'd give Episode 3 a 9 out of 10. But we'll get to that. I liked how Episode 2 started pretty much right where we left off with Episode 1, with Team RWBY on the cliff face overlooking the Ever After. And we have Weiss kind of being the main one who kind of questions this whole thing about the possibility of them being in a fairy tale, which her always being kind of the logical, cool-headed one does make sense. But Blake insists that they are in the fairy tale, and she starts listing things off that kind of match that idea. Mainly the aspects of Alex's story, her meeting the hunter mice, her encounter with the vines, getting her dagger stolen by Jinxie, and, we'll get to who Jinxie is, and encountering the Jabberwocky, or rather, fighting the Jabberwocker. And Yang reinforces this by adding on that Alex then went on to beat the Red King at his own game, met the Curious Cat, and the Rusted Knight. That last bit's interesting. We'll get to that a little later. But after they are all more or less forced to accept that they seem to be in some kind of fairy tale land, Weiss takes it not great at all. Honestly, it's pretty funny to watch her try to logic her way through this, and she's very clearly about to have an aneurysm about the whole thing. After the girls leave the cliff, they are walking on the path that Little guided them to before they fell asleep again, and they are headed towards the next segment of the island where they believe Jinxie's at. Jinxie being the peddler that stole Yang's arm, and we get an account of how Jinxie got a hold of Yang's arm, namely while she was still passed out from the fall, Jinxie snuck up and took it, and she woke up just in time to see him leave with it. Probably the only reason she didn't chase him down and get it back was because she encountered the Jabberwocker. Blake teasingly asks if this means that the raccoon caught Yang unarmed, and they have a bit of a back and forth and almost touch hands. Weiss notices this and says that it's about time, but RWBY, absorbed in her own thoughts, does not pick up on this, though RWBY's never been the most romantic individual in the first place. Then RWBY tells Weiss not to worry, that they'll get back home, to which Weiss has a bit of a moment where she pauses and kind of lets her inner emotions out a bit more than she normally does, and expresses her feelings over the fact that Atlas is gone. It is fallen, and they don't really know what's happened to the people on the other side in Vacuo. And she just says that she hopes that Winter and John manage to get the relics back from Cinder, and she specifically says, despite us, showing that she clearly feels some personal responsibility for how things went in the fight against Cinder. After that, Weiss tells RWBY that she's sorry about Penny and that she knows that was a lot to take in all at once. But RWBY doesn't respond and instead simply turns away and keeps walking, showing that she's pretty clearly not ready to talk about it, and my guess is probably won't be until a good bit later into the volume. Afterwards, the girls manage to reach the bridge that connects the island they're currently on to the next island, which apparently are called Acres. Once there, they ask Little where to go next, and Little says that they don't know. They've never been this far from home. And they ask him if they wouldn't want to go back to their home. To which Little says that they wouldn't know how to get back anyway. And the four girls have four different but appropriate reactions to the knowledge that they just effectively kidnapped a child. Weiss decides to ask Little if they'd like to come with them, while Little is building a house to live beside the bridge in. A house that quickly falls apart, showing that Little is both not a guide and probably not an architect either. Little agrees, and the next scene shows the five of them walking into this city in the Forever Fall looking area of the Forever After. Of the Ever After. This is what I get when I don't script videos. The villagers there, who are all a little game board piece people, react to Team RWBY's presence almost immediately, telling very quickly that they are not like anyone else they've ever seen before. Blake tells them to just act natural and stay calm effectively and don't cause any trouble as they try to find Jinxie. Fortunately, they find Jinxie pretty quickly, and the raccoon has already set up his stall and is looking to sell his wares, none of which at first seemed to be Yang's arm. Though, let's be real, it's the scepter, we all knew it the second we saw it. Blake tells them that Jinxie disguises his items as other things, and that they'll have to figure out which item is Yang's arm, again, it's the scepter, before they can acquire it. She also tells them that they don't use money in the Ever After, and Jinxie just names whatever price that he wants for whatever he is selling, which in the case of the first item, a diamond rabbit, happens to just be a hug. So I'm sure the rest won't be that bad. And then Jinxie asks for the feeling of knowing what it is to be loved in exchange for the scepter. Bit of a step up there. Yang here hesitates. Now, some people seem to have misinterpreted the scene a little bit, thinking that, oh, Yang doesn't know what it's like to be loved, and that's not the case, for sure. Yang knows what it's like to be loved with her teammates, her sister, her father. I mean, it doesn't have to be romantic love. Love takes all forms. She definitely knows what it's like to be loved. She hesitates because that's a very tall price to pay, even for your arm, and she very clearly isn't willing to give that up, and well, let's be real, there's no way she'd actually accept that bargain. She'd just take the arm from Jinxie and have done with it. However, the soldiers who are present for the auction accept this bargain and pay the price of whatever Jinxie wants in exchange for the quote-unquote scepter, and Yang winds up having to basically wrestle it from them. However, while this is going on, the next item, an emerald doll, goes up for sale, and RWBY puts her hand up to bid for it. Jinxie's asking price for this doll is enough hope to fill a jar, and RWBY doesn't have enough. However, she needn't worry over much, because while she may not have enough hope, she certainly has a little homie, and Little steals the emerald doll for her. The second Jinxie realizes that the doll is being taken, he gets angry and attempts to pounce on Little, but Little scampers away with the doll, and Jinxie says that he can't touch it. They can't touch it, sorry, before the deal is made. And just as he says that, the doll turns into its true form. One of Penny's swords. Now, my initial thought for this when I saw the trailer was that RWBY would find this sword close to Penny's body, but it seems that the raccoon came across the sword instead, and I can't help but wonder if, the raccoon, found it next to Penny's body, or if it just, fell away from Penny and landed elsewhere. I don't know. Yeah, a little dark either way. RWBY immediately recognizes the sword and runs to get it from Little, nearly bursting into tears, but giving Little a grateful smile for what they did. And I will just say this again, Little is so far the best part of this volume. I love this mouse. As Penny holds the sword, Yang runs by, waving her arm in the air, shouting that she's got it. Blake comes by telling them they have to go, and Weiss simply struts along like the queen she is. The five of them vacate the city quickly, outrun anyone who's chasing them, and find themselves in the forest, basically trying to figure out what they should do next. Blake is having a bit of a freak out because they're basically just doing what Alex did in her story. And Blake's concern is that they're not just being a part of the story, they're becoming the moral of a story. Yang, however, isn't worried over much as she finally has her arm back and is very happy about this fact. Weiss is just still furious that they seem to be trapped in a fairy tale, and that is still boggling her mind. And RWBY is contemplating the sword and what it means. All of them get into a disagreement about what to do next. Weiss insists that they should just go straight to the tree and not bother stopping. They know how the story ends, they know where to go, so they should go there. However, it doesn't work like that, as she quickly finds out as she tries to go to the tree and loops back around and comes back onto the screen from the opposite side. She tries it again, it doesn't work again, and in anger, she picks up a rock and chucks it, and it nails her in the back of the head. By the way, I love how the Maya engine just kind of stretches things sometimes. It's hilarious. I think the engine's called Maya, right? I'm pretty sure it is. I'm not going to stop to try and figure it out. Either way. But I just like how it stretches things sometimes in moments of quick action, such as making Weiss do a giraffe on us here. But after this, we have the soldiers arrive, and they're able to find them because they know someone is sad, and that creates a rain cloud that is above Team RWBY's head and raining on them, which brings the soldiers right to them. RWBY clears up and asks Blake what Alex did next in the story, and Blake says that Alex beat the Red King at his own game. At about this point, the soldiers come bursting out of the foliage on horseback, and demand the return of royal property and for them to put their hands up. Yang says okay, they realize they've probably made a mistake, but before things can get started, RWBY steps up and says that they want to go to the birthday party. The soldiers say that's fine, they're taking them there anyway as prisoners. But RWBY instead says that she will offer them a gift even greater than the one that Yang took. The weapon of a powerful warrior. RWBY proceeds to give a eulogy about Penny that was honestly very well done and very emotional. Once again, Lindsay Jones, great job. And in return for the sword, the soldiers agree to bring Team RWBY to the birthday party of His Highness. Blake asks RWBY if she thinks this is a good idea, to which RWBY says that they really don't have a better choice, frankly. For some reason, they're all being put on the path of a story they all read as kids, and they may as well follow it at this point and stop pretending that they know what they're doing. And RWBY almost certainly doesn't just mean in this particular instance. I think she just means in general with everything that happened in Atlas and all that. She's clearly feeling the weight of her decisions and the weight of the fact that no matter what she did, realistically, Atlas was never going to have a happy ending in the traditional sense. Honestly, the fact that anyone got out of there alive is ultimately thanks to Team RWBY and Juniper and their actions, but that doesn't change the fact that a lot of bad things happened as well. But with that being the end of episode 2, let's go on to episode 3. So, like I said before, I gave episode 3 a 9 out of 10 rating, and after having rewatched it again for this review, I stand by that rating. It was a really good episode. Easily the best one so far, but again, it's third episode, so that's really not saying much. The episode opens up with Team RWBY being escorted by the soldiers to His Highness's palace. And as we see quickly, His Highness is not in fact the Red King. It is the Red Prince, who is small and a bitch. The Red Prince is easily angered, easily upset, and is, to put it lightly, mercurial in nature. They go from pompous and arrogant to angry and frightened at the drop of a hat, and Team RWBY has to basically finagle their way into being let into the party by basically agreeing to play a game with the Red Prince. The game, as it turns out, is something of a bastardized version of chess where it's just pawns. And though the Red Prince establishes some rules at the start, it's pretty clear that this game doesn't really have any rules at all, except for one. The Red Prince always wins, which is made evident by the fact that his pieces are big, imposing for chess pieces, and perfectly maintained, whereas the white pieces, RWBY's pieces, are chipped, damaged, broken, and just in a general sorry state. RWBY notices that she seems to be missing some pieces, and the Red Prince says, "How lucky that you've brought some friends then," and then uses magic to shrink down Weiss, Yang, and Blake to the size of chess pieces and puts them on the board. While the Red Prince might be pompous, arrogant, and a complete brat, They're not stupid, and they are viciously clever behind their, well, literally porcelain mask. Ruby asks if anyone is going to get hurt in this, and the Red Prince simply smiles, but lets her go first. Ruby sends one of her pawns forward just to kind of test the waters, and the pawn unsurprisingly gets smacked down and knocked back. But not only are they smacked down, when they get knocked back, they look at the Red Prince, who gives them a nod, and they fall over. So it's pretty clear this is a rigged game from the start. If you're not the Red Prince, you're not supposed to win. However, the Red Prince clearly hasn't understood that the people before him are not regular people. Team RWBY is by now all fully fledged huntresses, and they are very skilled and dangerous in their own right. So when RWBY sends Weiss forward to take a space, Weiss takes it without issue. The same is true for Yang and Blake. They take their spaces without issue, and it's pretty clear that they're going to be spearheading any chance of victory here. The Red Prince is clearly infuriated by this, and eventually the quote-unquote game devolves from a game into a general melee, and RWBY expresses her tactical experience and acumen by issuing the time-honored order of "get 'em" to her pieces. Unsurprisingly, Yang, Weiss, and Blake are tearing their way through the Red Prince's pieces, and even the White pieces are making some serious headway when the Red Prince has a complete breakdown. At which point, however, the Red Prince pauses and asks, "What did you say you were again?" To which RWBY says that Blake is a faunus, Little is a mouse, probably, and she, Weiss, and Yang are humans. At the mention of humans, the Red Prince has a visceral reaction. A very visceral reaction. And he explodes in a fit of rage, screaming that he knew it, and tells all of the pieces, White and Red, to get them, basically. And Yang, Weiss, and Blake are forced to fight on all sides as all the pieces start attacking them and temporarily manage to drive them back some. However, as is made pretty clear pretty quickly, the pieces are no real match for Team RWBY at all. When RWBY tells her teammates to basically stop holding back and go all out, they win the fight handily, and we get a cool scene of Yang in full semblance mode with her hair on fire, wielding the Armageddon sword, slamming it into the ground, and just basically sending all the pieces flying. The battle won, the Red Prince well and truly throws a fit, grabbing the table and tipping it over, sending the pieces flying, including Yang, Weiss, and Blake. Fortunately, RWBY manages to catch them with Little's help before they go falling off the edge, and RWBY tells the Red Prince that they won and that he needs to help them get to the tree. The Red Prince responds by basically sticking his guards on them and telling them to kill all of Team RWBY. However, before the guards can attack, a new player enters the field, metaphorically speaking, and a cat materializes out of nowhere and basically tells the Red Prince not to do that, because if he kills them, they'll never come back, and he'll be lonely again. This is very clearly the stand-in for the Cheshire Cat, and as we'll learn in a bit, is the Curious Cat, who asks a great many questions. The cat convinces the king to spare them, and then tells RWBY to run before the king changes his mind, which he does very quickly, and tells the guards that they are banished. RWBY is forced to run out of the castle following the cat as the guards attempt to chase her down and, I guess, kill her? I guess banishing means something different in the Ever After than in our world or in Remnant, because they don't seem to be trying to so much banish them as kill them, but hey, whatever. With the cat's help, RWBY escapes down this little side hatch of a sort, and she wonders how things could have gone so wrong. The cat asks them what they were doing at the party, and Blake says that they wanted to ask the Red King for help, to which the cat responds interestingly, asking how they know about the Red King. Before they can answer, he simply says that times change, and that they change too when it's their time to. And then he asks RWBY, or perhaps all of Team RWBY, "Don't you?" And a bright white, almost silver, light fills the little hallway they're in and blinds RWBY momentarily, and when she can see again, she's outside in the red biome place, just in the middle of somewhere. With the knowledge that there was at one point a Red King, but no longer is, it becomes clear that things have changed in the Ever After from the story they all read, and Weiss puts it best. They're not in the stupid story, they're in its stupid sequel. This means that while they seem to be more or less following the path Alex took, willingly or otherwise, they are also treading their own path and changing how things work in the Ever After now, rather than doing the exact same things the exact same way that Alex did in her time. At this point, the cat asks 3 very important questions. What are you? What did you want to ask the king about? And what is your favorite dessert? Glad to see they have their priorities in order. Ruby tells them that they're human, at which point the cat more or less loses interest and says that they're a lot less interesting than the other ones that they've met. Interesting choice of words. So it seems like this cat has probably met Alex before. However, others is a very specific way to say that. He didn't simply say the other one I've met. He said others, implying, if I'm reading this correctly, that the curious cat has met more than one human in the ever after. Now, there are two obvious options as to what this could be, but as we'll see here in a bit, one of those options gets more or less eliminated, leaving only one option for who it could be out of our main cast that fell into the ever after. Nonetheless, before the cat can ask any more questions, they dart off after a butterfly, and Blake realizes that this is the curious cat, the one that helped Alex reach the tree, meaning that the curious cat could also help them reach the tree. Yang tells Ruby to race off after the curious cat, and it seems like that might be the end of the episode, but it's not quite. We then cut to an interesting looking bridge that spans between what looks like the jungle, where all of Team RWBY fell initially, and this dark, ominous looking realm. And we see the Jabberwocker running across the bridge into this dark realm, saying, "Run, flee." At least I think that's what he said. I haven't gone back and watched that part of the episode yet. Either way. As they run, they graze some grass in this dark realm, and it cuts them, leaving them bleeding. So, yeah, probably not a pleasant place to live, but the Jabberwocker kind of looks around the place and says, "Fix," and picks up this little mechanism before tossing it away. So it seems like the Jabberwocker is still looking for something. Initially I thought it might be someone, but now I think it is something, and that they are looking for things to fix that thing. I have a couple ideas about what this could be. I'm not positive about any of them, and I'm not going to really get into them here just because that's going to make this video even longer, and I really just kind of want to get this one done, to be honest with y'all. Anyway, as the Jabberwocker is rooting around, something comes falling from the sky Superman style and crash lands in this part of the ever after. A pink something. And who do we know that likes pink? Besides Nora. That's right, Neo's here now, and she is still very unhappy with Ruby if the fact that she takes her form is anything to go by. However, she then takes Cinder's form, making it pretty clear that Neo's vendetta has extended beyond just Ruby, and now she has 2 scores to settle. The Jabberwocker goes to investigate this new arrival, but as it does so, Neo prepares for a fight. Her semblance kind of triggers and pulses across the ground, and another Neo appears next to her, and then another one, and another, and another, until there's just a mob of Neos, at which point the Jabberwocker realizes it has bitten off far more than it can chew, and tells them to stay away. But, well, Neo being Neo, she does the exact opposite and begins to approach it. While I'm sure that there is a great many of us out there who have dreamed of the day we would be surrounded by Neos, the Jabberwocker is pretty clearly not one of them, and obviously is not having a great time by the end of the episode. So it seems that Neo's semblance has either A, evolved from basically her anger, or B, reacts very differently with the ever after, and seems much more powerful here. I'm sure that won't be an issue at all for the rest of Team RWBY when Neo inevitably goes to find them. But with Neo's arrival seeming to have happened after Team RWBY all met up, that doesn't leave much time for the curious cat to have met Neo. However, there is one more person that fell into the ever after that we have not seen yet, Jean. Now, the fact that we haven't seen Jean clues us in that whatever's going on with him is going to be big. And in fact, I believe that Jean is going to appear in the next episode for one very key reason. When Blake and Yang are listing off the story events of what happens to Alex throughout her adventures in the ever after, they specifically say that after she meets the curious cat, she meets the Rusted Knight. Remember that fiery figure from the trailer and from the intro who we all think is Jean? I'm still willing to bet that that knight figure is Jean, and that Jean is the Rusted Knight. Now, that seems kind of strange, considering the fact that Alex's story very clearly happened some time ago. However, much like how Team RWBY is basically just retracing Alex's footsteps, this may be an instance where Jean is retracing the footsteps of the Rusted Knight, and is not the exact same one from the original story. Now, that still seems odd, because Jean fell last out of everyone, so how could he possibly take on this role as the Rusted Knight when he's maybe not even arrived yet? If the fact that Neo seems to have only arrived after Team RWBY all met up, that would probably clue in that Jean may not have even reached the Ever After yet. However, as we've seen, time in the Ever After is weird. It does not work the same way that it does in our world or in Remnant. It is not linear, and spatial space doesn't work the same way either. If you try to just brute force your way to the tree, you're going to get stuck in a literal loop until you basically stop trying to brute force your way to the tree and just do things the way the Ever After wants you to do them. So there is nothing to say that the Ever After didn't have Jean arrive first, despite falling last. I mean, RWBY and Blake fell at the same time, but for some reason got separated when they fell. However, RWBY encountered Neo while falling, despite the fact that Neo fell before her. And despite the fact that Neo and RWBY apparently entered the Ever After at the same time, Neo, as far as we can tell, fell well after RWBY woke up. So clearly there is some, to quote that one show, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff going on. At least I think so. So that could very well mean that Jean is the Rusted Knight or has taken on the mantle of the Rusted Knight. And there could be any number of reasons for this happening. We have the blacksmith woman in the trailer asking RWBY what if she could shed the name Ruby Rose like an old coat. If she encountered Jean, I imagine she extended the same offer to him, and Jean, considering everything that he's been through and has suffered with the end of Volume 8, likely accepted and has become this knight figure, the Rusted Knight. As a side note, I initially thought that the blacksmith woman could be Alex. That could still be the case. However, I'm changing my initial idea that she might be a villain, and I think that this blacksmith might actually be a force for perhaps not good, but not evil either. She might simply just be a neutral entity within the Ever After. She doesn't really, play either side. She just simply is. I mean, her offer, when you think about it, isn't inherently a negative thing. She could simply see that RWBY is suffering a lot emotionally and is simply giving her a chance to get rid of that burden and become someone new, for better or for worse. Imagine like how a blacksmith might take old, broken materials and then reforge them into something new. Perhaps that's what she's trying to do here. Simply help RWBY become something new, something not burdened. Now again, yes, she could be a bad person. She could actually be a villain, and she's doing this for some nefarious ulterior motive, or she's just trying to help. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, episode 3 was easily my favorite episode so far, but I have a feeling that episode 4, if I'm right about Jean appearing in it, will definitely take the cake for me as my favorite episode thus far. Honestly, RWBY Volume 9 is just getting better as the volume progresses. I'm very happy to see it, and I am excited for the next volume. Hopefully my next review won't take as long as this one did to get out, and hopefully I'll be able to put out for just one episode rather than 2, so I can actually sit down, write a script, and have it better formulated than this, because I know this one was kind of a mess, and I apologize to anyone who may have been kind of put off by that, but hey, if you make it this far, you have my appreciation for sure. I don't have much more to say about that. At this point, I'm completely rambling, so I'm just going to go ahead and end the video here. Thank you to everyone who has watched thus far. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Leave a comment that tells me, what you thought about both episodes, what you think about the volume going forward, and what you think is gonna happen. Yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and never forget to keep moving forward.